right here, just like it would if it went through the old process. The problem is none of that stuff ever makes it to council because it's killed, either because developers don't have any certainty whatsoever whenever they go through this process, or they're not willing to make it. We had at least five different people that work in that area get up and say, I can't advise my clients to work in this process because they have no surety. We're not trying to blame the historic district. We're looking at the rest of DTO, which is thriving. We've got development everywhere except there. So we're wanting to help the historic district, and I will agree with the notion that everybody in this room, I think, wants the same thing, which is a vibrant historic district. And we disagree on how to get there, but we do know no one got up and said this process is working for the people that want to invest money there. Commissioner Barnes.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Commissioner, for that presentation, because there were a lot of things that you brought up that I was not aware of. But I did have a question for staff, and Mayor, maybe you can answer this as well. Has the city ever offered incentives for the redevelopment of these properties, similar to what we're proposing incentive program?
I'll let David respond to that, but we've had, at least during the time period that I've been here, any number of different type of incentive programs aimed at the downtown.
But I mean to the level that we're proposing now. You know, because facades are one thing, but when we're talking about the recapture of, you know, taxes and things of that nature, that's a lot more significant than what I've seen.
That is correct, Commissioner. We have done extensive facade grant programs. We even extended them, allowing for the CRA to pay for 80% of those refurbishments to enhance facades. And as you know, we also created the restaurant incentive program, which you just approved some today, that can apply up to $400,000 of incentives. But to the extent of what you mentioned, what we'll be proposing at our next meeting, having very extensive tax increment recaptures specifically targeted to historic structures, that would be new for us.
That will be new, so we have not done that. All right. Correct. And so my next question is kind of associated with the certainty, because I keep hearing that developers want certainty, and I know, you know, when you make an investment, you want certainty, and some of these projects don't even get to the municipal planning board. Have there been any ideas brought up that we can create more certainty for these developers without bypassing the municipal planning board? Has there been a discussion? Historic preservation board.
Yeah, it's been trying to understand what is working. And what we did find out for those developers is what process that we have that they did feel provided them that certainty that they were willing to make investments. As you know, oftentimes before they would even come talk to the city, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars spent either on even potential acquisition or getting plans and reports done to make sure that their plans are feasible and can have some chance of success. What we heard back was that at the process that we have was similar is the appearance review process, which is kind of what started the conversation of aligning the review process for all of downtown.
So they're saying the appearance review process has been the barrier?
No, they're saying that that process has worked in providing that certainty while also preserving good architectural values.
Okay, and then the other one is, my other question is associated with the 30-day notification. I know, Mayor, you said that we received legal guidance from our attorney that it doesn't apply to us. Commissioner Sheehan presented information that counters that. So I would like, you know, I don't know if our city attorney can chime in.
Stacy.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Mayor, Stacy Fallon, Assistant City Attorney. The guidelines require us to provide a 30-day review for amendments to our local preservation ordinance. This moratorium, as proposed, does not amend our local preservation ordinance. It is not a code change. It is not a codification. The overlay remains. The local preservation ordinance remains intact. It's our position that this is a change of a rule of procedure, which requires notification in our annual reporting, which was always the intent to do so.
And with all due respect, The state is saying that this will make our CLG null and void as of the adoption. So I just want to make that clear. I didn't get that from our attorneys. I talked directly to the source, and I think the state knows what their rules are, probably better than we do, apparently, because I think it's important to present the proper information. Again, I do not like being at odds with staff, but I also think it's important, since this is an important issue to the public, that this be transparent.
You done, Commissioner Burns?
I'm finished, thank you.
Commissioner Chapin?
Thank you, Mayor. I've received a lot of input on this subject, both sides. As everybody's pointed out, we all love downtown. I've also received the letter and the email saying that historic funding could be at risk if we move this fast. We're getting our attorney's opinion on that, and we're also going to delay enactment in order to make sure that happens. I think it's, an argument that's difficult to reconcile. Over the past 7 years, we've watched the state increasingly preempt local decisions, making, and today advancing measures that could remove billions of dollars from local government. So against that backdrop, I find it difficult to accept the argument that Orlando should alter its local planning decisions because of a relatively small amount of state funding might be at risk. My responsibility is not to Tallahassee. My responsibility is to the residents of Orlando. And the message I hear over and over again is simple. People want a downtown that feels alive again. People are concerned about affordable housing, public safety, economic opportunity, transportation in the future. I want to address the notion that supporting this moratorium somehow means I don't appreciate downtown's legacy. Nothing could be further from the truth. I grew up in Orlando. As a young man, I worked at Church Street Station as a guest service host. I also valet parked cars for a different company alongside plenty of Boone High School and Florida State students who came home during the summers and the holidays. Back then, downtown Orlando was one of the most vibrant destinations in Florida. I remember seeing John Anderson at Cheyenne Saloon. He was right down the road from Apopka, Mayor Dyer. Remember him?
Sure.
30 years later, I can still remember that music. In fact, some of us probably still know every word to Seminole Wind. What I don't remember was the color of the grout. And I think that's part of the point. I remember Nickel Beer Night at Phineas Fogg's. I remember World Cup when it was downtown. It was packed with fans from around the world. What made those memories special wasn't the buildings, it was the people. And that's exactly why this issue matters to me. I've gone back and reviewed more than a decade of historic preservation minutes this whole week. And to repeat Mr. Usler, this is not HPB members' fault. This is the fault of the ordinance. This is what they're dealing with. I'm not laying blame here. But I found repeated examples where property owners like Brian Wilson, who testified today, sought to invest in historic buildings, including the historic train depot, which proposed new restaurants, meeting space, outdoor dining, and a new activity while preserving the building itself. Mr. Price said to be innovative. This plan was innovative. Yet much of the discussion focused on mural colors, materials, lighting, awnings, grout, picket fences, and even where elevators should be, bathrooms should be, and kitchens should be. The question isn't whether we preserved an awning, approved a mural color, or debated the location of the bathroom. The question is whether downtown Orlando is producing the housing activity, investment, and vibrancy our residents want. I've also heard critics suggest that if a Historic Preservation Board denies a project, the City Council can simply override the decision. Respectfully, that's not how government should work. We can't simply ignore our own ordinances. And if we overturn a denial, the ordinance remains in place. And if that decision is appealed, a court will not ask whether the council wanted more housing, more investment, or more vibrant downtown. The court will ask whether we followed the ordinance. That means the same uncertainty, the same delays, and the same conflicts simply move to the next project. The reality is that that uncertainty doesn't just affect the projects that get denied, it affects the projects that never got proposed in the first place. I've also heard criticism we're moving too fast. Frankly, my question is, what took us so long? The concerns reflected in the minutes span years. The frustrations expressed by property owners, business owners, and applicants span more than a decade. But this issue extends far beyond those directly involved in the process. One of the questions I'm asked most often from citizens is simple. How do we fix downtown? Residents want more activity. They want more restaurants. They want more housing. They want more people living downtown. They want a downtown that feels vibrant, safe, and alive. The results speak for themselves. Over the past 15 years, other parts of downtown have seen significant investment. Meanwhile, the historic preservation overlay has seen no comparable investment. At some point, we have to stop debating process and start evaluating outcomes. If one area of downtown is attracting investment while others remain largely stagnant, we have a responsibility to ask why. I believe the ordinance and the uncertainty it creates are a significant part of that answer. This conversation is long overdue. I can tell you I've had plenty of input. I've visited with neighbors in their kitchen counters. I've emailed constituents. I've read news stories. I've seen social media. Because what creates a sense of place? As Betsy Owens stated, we've got some great senses of place. Audubon Park, Blue Gardens, our main streets. They are all great. But I can tell you, our residents are giving up on downtown. Is it buildings alone or is it people? I argue it's people. Buildings by themselves do not create a sense of place. People do. If we want walkability, affordability, sustainability, and a vibrant downtown, we need more people living downtown. A historic building with no tenants, no customers, no residents, and no investment may be preserved physically, but it's not preserved as a living part of the city. My concern is that the ordinance this council adopted decades ago was written for a different time in a different downtown. Today, it just makes it extraordinarily difficult to produce the housing, investment, economic activity, and downtown vitality that residents consistently tell me they want to see. This is not a vote to limit historic preservation. These plans still need to be reviewed by the ARB, the Appearance Review Board, planning, building, fire. The Appearance Review Board is no walk in the park, I can tell you that. After listening to constituents, reviewing the record, and looking at the condition of downtown, I do not believe the current ordinance is producing the results our residents want. And perhaps the most important question we should be asking ourselves today is this: are we creating the next generation of downtown memories? I believe we can respect our history while also creating a path towards more housing, more investment, more economic opportunity. I believe there's a difference between preserving history and freezing history. The best way to protect historic buildings is to keep them relevant, occupied, invested in, and economically viable. The purpose of preservation should not be to freeze downtown in time. The purpose of preservation be to ensure that our history remains a living and productive part of the city. We should honor our past, but we should not allow policies adapted decades ago to prevent us from building the future our citizens want and deserve. For those reasons, I will be supporting the moratorium. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Keene.
Thank you, Mayor. I know, try to keep this fairly brief here. We've had a long afternoon. Orlando's downtown historic district has lacked, as we've heard today, major investments over the last 15 years. This targeted moratorium evaluates existing regulations that may be hindering projects within the business district. So I want to be clear that I support the moratorium today, the temporary moratorium, because it allows us to better understand how we can preserve our historic character while ensuring downtown is still economically competitive. Preservation is most successful when buildings are occupied, maintained, and economically viable. And again, I'm repeating what folks on both sides have said today. I want to thank Commissioner Sheehan for her very good remarks today, and to Commissioner Chapin as well. We have good people on both sides. I also want to thank the people who came to speak to me about this in my office, including members of the Historic Preservation Board, as well as those that are very passionate about the preservation of Orlando, who emailed me their thoughts and concerns. But this moratorium is a way that I believe is a way to balance historic preservation as well as the economic development needs of the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Rose.
Thank you to everyone who came to speak today. Thank you, Commissioner Sheehan, for sharing your views on the ordinance. My support for the moratorium is rooted in a broader goal, accelerating downtown revitalization and removing barriers that may be preventing investment, redevelopment, and housing opportunities here in our urban core. Downtown Orlando continues to face significant challenges. As shown in the pictures that Commissioner Sheehan in her presentation, we have vacant properties, underutilized buildings, declining foot traffic, and a need for a moratorium that creates an opportunity for more residential and commercial activity. The proposed moratorium is intended to provide a temporary window to evaluate whether our current review processes are unintentionally discouraging developments that could help bring people, businesses, and economic activity back to downtown. This is not about eliminating historic preservation. Orlando remains committed to preserving its history and cultural assets. There have been stated concerns about demolition, but I want to reiterate the policy for those who do not understand it and do not know it. It will remain the same, which means that HPB staff will review and approve demolition of any historic buildings only when the developer has all permits and is ready to start construction. Which would mean there would have been an extensive process, including ARB, municipal planning, and the city council's review and approval, which includes public opportunity and input. Rather, this is a temporary measure designed to create flexibility while we assess how preservation policies intersect with cities' economic development, housing, and redevelopment goals. I believe the moratorium will help us better understand whether regulatory changes can encourage investment in areas that have struggled to attract redevelopment, while also allowing the city time to review and modernize its long-term approach to preservation and growth. Ultimately, the focus here is creating a vibrant, economically healthy downtown that serves residents, businesses, and all visitors alike. I believe this temporary pause provides an opportunity to better balance preserving our history and ensuring downtown Orlando can successfully adapt to current and future needs.
Commissioner Sheehan.
I see which way this is going, but I just want to say one thing. This decision was made on a map that showed investment in downtown. $5 million and up. The thing is, if you're going to put a restaurant in a historic building, you don't need to spend $5 million. It's cheaper to do the renovation. So going right off the bat, the chart that we were shown, it was one to disincentive, to not show the truth. There are empty storefronts all over downtown, not just in the historic district. So it's very frustrating to me to hear that this is going to be a panacea somehow, because there are empty storefronts all over downtown. I've often said that we need to start fining people with empty storefronts. Maybe that would make a difference, but we can't because it's unconstitutional. All permits in, they can demolish. As long as they get the permits in, it's demolished. So the reason all these folks here are upset today, and the reason I'm upset today, is because I care about the history of the city. I care about these buildings that have been here much longer than I have been, and will be here, and I had hoped would be here long after I live. And I'm deeply distressed by this decision. I do not think it's going to be the silver bullet that everybody thinks it's going to be. And as a historic preservationist, I'm appalled, horrified, and very disappointed.
Okay, I want to thank everybody for being civil today. We sometimes have discussions and it's not so civil. Everybody isn't going to get the exact result they want, but you can be comfortable in knowing that everybody in this room has the exact same goal, and that is to have a great, flourishing downtown, and especially in the historic district. So this is a step, we believe, in getting there. So all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Okay, I got it 4-2. Commissioner Ortiz not being present. Okay, motion carries. Okay, we still have a lot more business to do, so those of you who don't want to remain for that are eligible to leave.